Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Grandma. Today I'm going to be making a few dessert recipes for you. We're going to start out with a clone of a cinnabon. If anybody's ever had cinnabons, you know how delicious they are. The recipe was originally meant with a bread machine, which I don't have, but it was good enough. The copycat recipe was good enough to give me the recipe, like to tell you what to do without a bread machine. So the first thing we're going to do is I put 1 package of yeast into 1 cup of warm milk, and we're just going to let that sit for a little bit. And then we just have to dissolve the yeast. We don't have to let it sit for too long, but the milk's got to be fairly warm to dissolve the yeast, and my milk is not warm enough, so I'm going to stick it in the microwave for just a minute. It's got to be pretty warm, otherwise the yeast won't dissolve, won't get soft. And then we're going to add to that the sugar, the butter, the eggs, and the salt, and then our flour. It's a pretty easy recipe. It is a little time consuming because you have to wait for it to rise. While it's rising, we're going to go on to our next recipe. All right, now I'm going to put this into my big bowl. That's a little bit better. I'm going to give it a stir to get those chunks of yeast out of there. It's still not dissolving it properly. The milk is pretty warm now, so it'll just take a second. There it goes. Now it's, just a little added extra to it. So we're just going to smush it. You got big chunks, smush it against the side of your spoon, and then, put it back into the milk here. You don't want any chunks of yeast in it. You want them all nice and dissolved into the milk. So I'm just taking the little lumps that are in there and taking the back of the spoon, if you can see that, and I'm just kind of flattening, squishing them with the milk, with the spoon, and then stirring it back into the milk. There we go. We got them all. And now to this, we're going to add the sugar, the margarine, the eggs, and the salt. So we want 2 eggs. And 1/3 cup of butter or margarine. Again, I don't use butter very often. If it's on sale, I'll buy it, but I really don't find much difference in butter versus margarine, taste-wise, whether you're cooking or eating it. And there goes the butter in. Okay, sugar, margarine, egg, salt. Okay, so now the sugar, butter, you got warm milk, eggs, butter. Oh, there it is, 1/2 cup of sugar. I didn't see that on my list. I'm thinking it calls for sugar, but I don't see it. I've made these before, and they're very, very good. And they do taste pretty much like the rest of the cinnabons. We used to get them when we go to IKEA. We'd order them from the thing. That's where we always got them, and they really are good. Very, very rich and sweet. You don't want to have more than one. So okay, so we dissolved the yeast in the milk, and then we added the margarine, the sugar, the eggs, and the salt, which is a teaspoon of salt. A measuring spoon here. Teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix all this in really well. And because the milk is still warm, it is helping to melt the butter and to incorporate the butter a little bit quicker and easier. You don't have kind of chunks of it. When you're making bread, you want everything to be smooth and nice, and once you get adding the flour, it gets a little harder to mix it, but then that's where you use your muscles. That's why us women have so much good muscles. We knead the bread, and we stir things a lot. So now we add the flour. Now it calls for 4.5 cups, or until it is in a thick enough where it's not, when it leaves the side of the bowl. So I'm just going to measure out. I'm going to put 2 cups at a time and stir it in. Mix it all in, and see how much, if I need the whole 4.5 cups. So mix it all in, get it nice and smooth. and all incorporated and mixed. And get it. There we go. That looks good, and it's already getting thick, but it's not obviously bread. It's nice. There we go. Okay, so that was 2 cups of flour, so now I'm going to put another 2 cups in. It usually does take the whole 4.5 cups, and the recipe says 4.5 cups or until it leaves the side of the bowl. And I've not ever made it where it didn't take the whole amount of flour. Okay, so that's 4 cups, and we need another 1/2 cup if this doesn't mix in. There we are. And see, now it's getting a little stiffer. You can see in the bowl here, it's a little bit stiffer, a little bit harder to mix. It's mixing, it's still, you know, you just turn it over and scrape the sides and go up and around. Make sure all the flour is off in the bottom. You want every bit of it mixed in. Okay, now we'll go ahead and put the other 1/2 cup in. 1/4, and there's a 1/2. Stir that one in. Okay. Now we get it all mixed in, and we're going to turn this out onto the counter, and we're going to knead it for a few minutes until it's nice and smooth and elasticy, stretchy. And then while it's rising, because it needs to rise till double in size, what I usually do is I set my bowl on top of the stove because the oven is on, and that gives it some heat that helps it rise a little quicker. There we are. So we're going to take that out of the bowl and put it onto a very generously floured surface because it's pretty sticky right now. Just dump it out. And we're just going to knead something, you pull it towards you, and then you push it and turn it, pull it towards you, and push with the heels of your hands. And you just keep doing this until it's nice and smooth. This is a very soft dough. It's very nice. You just keep doing this until when you stretch it, see, and then it goes back. I don't know if that shows very good. Let's stretch it, and then you can see it moving back. So we just have to do it a little bit more, just to get it nice and you're working all the yeast, and you're putting some air in it and getting all the yeast incorporated good, and all the flour, getting that gluten in the flour all mixed in good. Now you can see better. I hope you can see that. Can you see up all the dough? And you push it down, and it comes right back up again. That's when you know it's done. So you take that and you put it in the bowl you were mixing, but I'm going to butter the bowl. I'm going to put some, you don't need a clean bowl. You just use the same bowl that you mixed everything in. We're just going to butter it a little bit so as it's rising it doesn't stick. And that's all the reason why you put it in the bowl. So we put that in the bowl. We're going to cover it up with a towel, and we're going to set it aside and let it rise until it's double. So while it's rising, that generally takes anywhere between, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes or so. It depends. Now it's not too humid yet today. It calls for high humidity. It's not there yet, so we might be in luck that it might rise good for us. So while that is rising, we're going to move on to our second recipe, and we're going to make night and day cookies. They're called two-tone cookies or night and day. What they are, you make a chocolate dough and a vanilla dough, and when you put them on your cookie sheets, you put a little spoonful of each next to each other, so it's night and day. It's white and black. So daytime and nighttime. So this recipe calls for 6 tablespoons of margarine. I'll have to measure that out one of these times. Let's see. 8. Well, 8 tablespoons is a half a cup. So we need 6, so it's not quite a half a cup. I've got a little chart here, Kitchen Conversions. It's pretty interesting. It gives you all the conversions. It's like 1 cup equals 8 ounces equals 16 tablespoons equals 48 teaspoons. So, you know, that's pretty good. So 6 tablespoons, 8 tablespoons is a half a cup. So we're doing a less. So 5 1/3 tablespoons is a third. So it's just a little under a third of a cup. For now, I'm going to just go ahead and put them in by tablespoonfuls though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a little over a third of a cup when you measure it out that way. Okay, so to that we're going to add, there's 2 sugars. There's a half a cup of brown sugar. There's my measuring cup here. There's a 1/4 of a cup, and there's a half a cup. Half a cup of brown sugar and 1/4 cup of white sugar. And that goes in. So we're going to mix the sugars and the butter together till it's creamy, until it's all mixed in nice. Some cookie recipes you can just dump everything in the bowl and just mix it all at once. This one I find you have to go by the steps. You have to mix it as you're putting things in because it doesn't mix very well afterwards. There, that's what it should look like. Nice and creamy and smooth. All the sugar's mixed in. You can hear it, you can feel it and hear it. The gritty sound from the sugar's not being mixed up. It'll be nice and smooth. So to that we're going to add the vanilla and an egg. So we need 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. So that's half a capful. And we need 1 egg. And that goes in. So we're going to give that a stir. I don't know where all my viewers are from. If you're all from around here, we're living in Ontario, Canada, and how your summer's going, and if it's as hot and humid where you are as it is here, leave me a comment, let me know. Today it's supposed to be 31 degrees, and for you all, if there's anybody in the United States watching this, that means that you double that and add 30. So 31 is 62, so that'll be 92 degrees. That's without the humidity. If we hit sometimes yesterday it was, turned out to be almost 100 degrees with the humidity. It was 96 with the humidity. It was pretty hot. So yeah, you stay inside with the fan, let me tell you, the air conditioning. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stir in 1/2 a cup of sour cream. After we've got the vanilla and the eggs and the sugars all mixed in together. I don't know what I did with my measuring cup. There. I had missed taking that out. I forgot. Didn't realize it. Okay, so we're going to take 1/2 cup of sour cream. These are a very soft cookie. They're very good. Just a delicate flavor. They're not overly sweet, even though we put that amount of sugar, but that makes a lot of cookies, so the sugar's dispersed quite nicely over the whole few dozen that you get out of them. So we're going to stir in our sour cream. Okay. So now we add the flour and the salt and the soda, and then we mix it into the cream mixture. So 1 1/4 cups of flour. There. There's 1 1/4. 1 1/4 cups of flour goes in, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay. Cream, butters, and sugar beaten so fast, stir in sour cream, mixed vanilla, salt, and baking soda. So it is 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And I'm going to add 1 extra ingredient that is not on the ingredient list, but I'm going to try it today. I haven't added it to it before, but I bought a bag of raisins the other day at the store, and these would be really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in about a cup of raisins. You can always add, when it's a plain recipe like this, you can add fruit or raisins or, you know, some berries or something, depending on what you're making. You just do have to follow, when you're baking, you have to pretty much precisely follow the recipe. So there is our batter. And it's a little bit on the wet side. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just when I get the cocoa and stuff in it. It seems like, no, it's okay. It's just not falling off the spoon. All right. So now to this, what we do is that we stir in nuts if using. Well, I'm not using nuts. I decided to go with raisins. So we have to divide this dough in half and then stir chocolate into one portion. So I'm going to measure this out. I'm going to put it in this 2-cup measuring cup, because sometimes I'll divide it. I'll just eyeball it and it won't, I'll have too much of one and not at the other. And that's at the end of the recipe there, you're not mixing it good, because you have to put a spoonful of each next to each other. And I ran out the last time. I had more white dough than I did chocolate. So this time I'm going to measure. So it is a little over 2 cups of batter. So I'm going to put 1 cup back in my big bowl. And I'm going to get a smaller bowl. And I'm going to put in, to this we're going to measure in our chocolate. And that is going to make our night and day cookies. All that out of there. There we go. Set that aside. So this calls for 1 ounce of chocolate squares melted. Now you know my trick. I don't buy the chocolate, the baker's chocolate. So you know my trick for that is to take the cocoa and mix it with some hot water, and you get it's equal. So you take 4 tablespoons of cocoa, and you put 1 tablespoon of butter, and then I'm going to let my water get hot here. Just take a second, and you add in a couple of tablespoons of water. Just do a little bit at a time, because you don't want to put too much in. You don't want it runny. You want it to mimic melted chocolate. If you would take a bar of chocolate and melt it. So that's what you want to make it look like. Okay, so the water's warm. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons to start. And give that a mix and see how that turns out. Oh, a little bit more. That wasn't quite enough. So just keep adding a tablespoon at a time until it looks like you've put a chocolate bar in a dish and melted it in the microwave or on the top of a Dutch oven cooker or slow cooker. There. Now it's almost. You see, it's like real thick. You don't want it that thick. You want it a little runny, because you don't want it to be floppy. Yeah. So it took about 4 tablespoons this time. That's all right though. There we go. Now it's mixing in very nicely, and if you can see that, let me see if you can. It's hard to see it, but you can see that it looks like melted chocolate. And the more I stir, the smoother it gets. Give it a good stir. There. And now it looks like a melted chocolate bar, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want it real runny, but you don't want it thick either. Just got to keep working it. And there is a melted chocolate bar. So that's going to go in the 1/2 of the dough. And we're going to mix that up. I'm going to get my cookie sheets out. And I was out shopping yesterday and I forgot to buy parchment paper. So that means I have to butter my cookie sheets. I knew there was one more thing I needed, and I was kind of walking up and down the aisles, and I forgot them. Not a big deal if you do. You know, you just go ahead and do with what you got, right? You don't have to have all these gadgets. So there, now you've got a cup of white dough and half a cup of white dough and half a cup of chocolate dough. I'll get out my cookie trays. And this is a non-stick cookie tray, so I don't need to put anything on it. So what you do is you take a teaspoon and you take a teaspoon of the white dough and place it down. And then you take a teaspoon of the chocolate dough and you put it right next to it. So when they bake, they're going to cook together. They're going to stick together. Well, they do, like I said, they call these two-tone cookies, but I call them night and day cookies because that's what they remind me of. Daytime and nighttime. And these will spread in the oven. They puff up. They don't spread, but they do puff up, so they get nice and fluffy. They're a very nice and fluffy cookie, and they're a very soft cookie. And we just keep going until all of our batter is used up. And if you find that if you're taking like bigger scoops of one than the other, and you have a little bit of too much chocolate dough or too much vanilla dough or whichever way it goes, then you can just go ahead and just make them chocolate or vanilla, whatever you have. Because it looks again like I've got too much. I must be using more vanilla than I am chocolate for some reason. It seems like my vanilla dough is running out before my chocolate dough is. I think adding the chocolate to it increases the amount you get by a little bit. So that might have a little bit of something to do with it. I'm not sure. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and put a dozen of these on here. And these don't take long to bake. They take about 7-8 minutes to bake. And one more. So there, you can see those. That's what they look like on your cookie sheet. You got the white dough, and then you got your chocolate dough. So now I'm going to put these in the oven, and these take, well, it says 12 to 15 minutes, but I'm usually done in about 10. So I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes, because I don't think they're going to take that long. And I'm going to get another cookie sheet. Now this one I have to butter because it's not non-stick. And although these are very soft cookies, we just, you don't want them to stick. Now if you wanted to, you could make these all one. You don't have to make them half chocolate. You could just have a vanilla cookie, or you can make it chocolate, and instead of putting them side by side, you can just put them just all vanilla or just all chocolate, whatever you wanted. And it looks like I'm going to have a lot of chocolate dough left over, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have just chocolate cookies. There's a lot here. Okay. So we're going to get this done. Put them in there. I have enough dough for one more vanilla. So it's not too bad. I have enough chocolate dough for a few by themselves for some reason. I did measure it, but like I said, with the adding of the chocolate, it increased the amount of dough. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them on here, and we'll just have chocolate raisin cookies. If you don't want to waste all this batter, or I'm not going to make any more vanilla. I'm just going to go ahead and use it like it is. So there we go. Nice big chocolate cookies. And these will, I don't think it's not so much that they spread, so you can put them not real close together, but close-ish. But they do puff up, so they're a nice cookie. So there, that is our night and day cookies. I'm going to get my recipe here for my last thing we're going to make today. This is called cinnamon hypnotizers. And while those cookies are baking, I'm going to do these. This is a really super easy thing to do. It's a light snack. It's not overly sweet. It calls for tortilla shells. I bought them, was going to make quesadillas, and for some reason I didn't make them. I had other plans for dinner or whatever reason, doesn't matter. I just had the extra quesadillas and the top of the shells. So you want the tortilla shells, like the nice big 10-inch ones. So to these you mix brown sugar and cinnamon, and then you brush your tortillas with the half the butter, and then there's 3 tablespoons of melted butter. So I'm going to go ahead and put the butter in the microwave and melt it. You brush it on your tortilla shells, sprinkle them with cinnamon and sugar. Let me just go ahead and stick this in the microwave. I'm going to a small bowl and measure in my, let's see, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. Now you can also always increase this recipe and, you know, make more. This is enough for, this calls for 2 flour tortillas, so, you know, I'm going to go ahead and double it actually. So 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. I'm going to do 6 because I want a lot of these. There's 3, 4, 5, 6 tablespoons. And for the cinnamon, it calls for 1 teaspoon, so now I'm going to use 3 teaspoons. 1, 2, and 3. That was easy. And now we're going to give that a good mix. I just found this recipe. I was looking for quick and easy. No, I mean, you have to bake these, but you don't bake them in the oven for too long. I just wanted something quick and easy and not too sweet. Just a nice little snack. And I come across these somewhere, I don't know where it was, and I just photocopied it. So you take 1 tortilla shell like this, lay it down, I'm going to get my pastry brush here. And okay, so you brush the tortillas with the butter and then sprinkle with the sugar. Now it says to do half. Mind you, I'm going to not do half at a time because I'm going to make more. You just brush it on there till it's all nice and coated. And sprinkle it with the brown sugar and cinnamon all over it. I don't know if you can see that, if it's showing up very well. Give it a, you want it pretty much all the way covered. Okay, so I'm trying to angle that camera so you can see. There it is, all nice and covered on there. Whoops, sorry, and there we go. That's what it looks like. And then you roll this up jelly roll style. So you start at the one end and you roll it really, really, really tight. And you kind of give it a little push as you go so it sticks. It stays. You roll it and roll it. And then you push these just like this, the seam side down, and then you brush it with the rest of the butter and you put it on a cookie sheet and you bake it for about 8 minutes. And it comes out nice and crispy and sweet on the inside and nice and crispy. So I'm going to brush that and brush both sides. You don't want to forget the bottom. This way you don't have to brush your baking sheet. So there's the one. Set that over there. I'm going to just try to raise this up so y'all can see what I'm doing. Let's see if that shows up better. There we go. Trying to get that right in the middle for you so you can see but I'm showing you how I'm doing it a little better. There we go. That's a better angle, isn't it? Put it right there so you can see. Now you take your melted butter and you brush it all over the tortilla. See, this says it does 2 tortillas, but you know, that amount of cinnamon and brown sugar, it'll do a lot more than 2. I mean, it would be an awful lot on there to use half of it for one and half for the other. I mean, this should get me 6 because no, 4 because I doubled the recipe. But I'll get more than 4. I'll get 5 or 6 of them. So then you take it and you just roll it up real tight, just like this. You want to roll it up like you would if you were making a jelly roll. You want it really, really tight. Push it down as you go, so then it doesn't fall apart while it's in the oven. And you put it seam side down, and then you take that and you brush all around with the melted butter. You put a little bit there, and then when you put the seam down, it'll stick. The butter will help it stick. So there we go. That is and these are called cinnamon hypnotizers. I don't know why. I guess there you go. I don't know what to hypnotize about, but okay. I guess because they're spirals. You can cut these when they're done, and you don't have to eat a whole one all at once. You can just cut them in pieces and have like a little snack, some crunchy snack to munch on. You butter it and sprinkle your brown sugar mixture. Get a little lump of the brown sugar, just pat it out. Baking doesn't have to be stressful. Some people think, oh, it's so hard. It's so, oh, I got to, mixing this and it's so stressful. And no, it's not. It's relaxing. It's fun. When it's not fun is when you're making something that doesn't work out right. Then that's not fun. If you burn the cookies, or, what I've done in the past, like until I got a little smarter, is that I've had everything all in the everything out all on my counter, or not everything out rather, and I've added all my ingredients into a bowl one at a time, and then I'll be looking for something and I realize I don't have that. Whoopsie, I spilled the butter. I don't have that ingredient, and then you're like, well, okay, what do I do now? Because some things you can't omit, like some things, for raisins you don't have, well, okay, you can omit the raisins or chocolate chips or whatever. But, I mean, you don't want to be without the ingredients. So that kind of puts a damper on things. I know I've left a bowl full of stuff and I ran over to the corner store, and you pay a lot at the corner store, but, you're in the middle of the recipe. There's my timer for our cookies. So I'll get this last one on and I'll see how they come out, if they need any more cooking time. But that's why I always say at the beginning of my videos, or I did say at my welcome video, always get all your ingredients out. That's what you need in your recipe, so you know if you can make that recipe or not. Okay, so there is our night and day cookies. You see how they puffed up nice? You got half chocolate and half vanilla. And that was 10 minutes. And I'm going to put them back in just for about a minute longer, because they're still a little bit, if you can make a little dent in it, then they're not quite done. So I'm just going to give them another minute or two. Set the timer for 2 more minutes. And I'll go ahead and make another tortilla. Another cinnamon hypnotizer. Butter. Spread it on. These are so easy and they're just so yummy. And it's cinnamon sugar, so it's got the sugar. It's a bit sweet, but it's not sweet. It's not knock you down sweet, because you're mixing it with cinnamon and you bake it, So actually it did make, I've got enough probably for one more. So it didn't, when I doubled the recipe, it doubled it. There's my 4, so I can actually get 6 out of this. rather than 4. So it calls for that much ingredients, but you sometimes get more out of it than it calls for, which is nice. You know, that's okay. You can always make more, or if you make a recipe and you find out that that's what happened, then you just eliminate. You don't make it as much. Let me get my other package of tortillas out here because that one was all used up. So I can get one more out of that batch of brown sugar, and that will give me 2, 4, it'll give me 6. So that's pretty good. I can always make more if I like, you know, for everybody, because normally whenever I bake, I send some home to my son, I give some to my daughter, and if I have my Dino Brody's little brothers over, they have moved to Mississauga. If I have them over for a visit, then they have some, and I send some home to them. So I usually have to make a lot extra because I give a lot away. So that was just enough, a little less cinnamon sugar on this one than there could be. And there's my timer already. So I'm going to quickly roll this guy up. Get it on the baking pan. When I take that batch of cookies out, I'm going to put these in, and then we'll check on our dough for our cinnabons. We'll see if that's risen, because then we got to take the next step. Okay, so I'm going to take the first batch of cookies out. Yep, that's better. Oh, perfect. And there it is. So it did take the 12 minutes, and you can touch them, and you see it doesn't. It kind of springs back up like it does a cupcake. They're very soft, very puffy cookies. Set those on the table, and now these guys go in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes. So again, I'll do it at 8 minutes and see how they look. Okay, and our dough is for our cinnabons. And check on that. It's supposed to double in size, so let's just take a peek and see what it looks like. And there, I think, yeah, it's about doubled. I think it can go a little bit longer. I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes to rise just a little bit, see if it comes up just a little bit more. There is another step to rising. I'm going to just give it a few more minutes. It's not quite doubled in size. So in the meantime, I think what I'll do is I will make one more small batch of the, what do I do with my bowl? My cinnamon hypnotizers. I will make one more batch of that. Get some more butter out. Container of butter, and I'm going to mix up my cinnamon and brown sugar. I'm going to make a few more because that made 6, so that way if I make another 6 or so, then we'll have them for, anybody can have them, we'll have extra. I'm going to melt the butter in the microwave. That's one good thing with the microwave, you don't have to put it in a saucepan and melt it. It takes it so much quicker. 30 seconds in the microwave melts out your tablespoons, 3 tablespoons of butter. So now I'm going to add in my brown sugar. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to double it again. I'm doubling it. That actually gave me, because this makes 2. So I got 6. So by doubling it, I got, it's almost like bread filling it. And I didn't even put that much extra in it. And my cinnamon. Cinnamon, put that in there. And we'll make a few more. Pretty easy peasy. There's nothing much to it. And that's what I said. You can have fun while you're baking. You can try new things. Like if it calls for, if you're making muffins and you want blueberry muffins, put a few out. If you don't have blueberries, use the strawberries. Or what I have made, if you've watched my other videos, you'll know I made fruit muffins. So you add whatever you have on hand. You add, if I have strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, whatever I have on hand, that's what I put in. And I call them fruit explosion muffins. I kind of copycatted Tim Hortons. But their fruit explosion muffins, when I tried them, hang on a minute. Sorry about that noise. I had to get another cookie sheet out. When I tried Tim Hortons fruit explosion muffins, it's almost like a jam. It's not actual chunks of fruit. So when I make mine, I make them with actual fruit. And then I just add bananas and blueberries and strawberries and whatever fruit I have on hand. If berries are on sale and I buy the containers of the berries, I just add a little bit of everything. Just chop them up. And then I just follow my basic blueberry muffin recipe and make them. And there we go. I'm just taking my cookies off the cooking sheet and putting them on the wire rack to cool them. You don't want to leave them on the cookie sheet. So again, we're going to start making a few more of these while the first batch is in the oven. So I'm just going to brush them with butter, little cinnamon sugar. You want a good amount. That last one I made didn't have a lot, so it's going to be a little of a skimpy flavor kind of thing, you know, but you want it to be pretty much all covered. And then roll it. Easy peasy. Something like this you can do if you've got your grandchildren over and they can help you with it. They can butter the tortillas if they're, you know, depending on now my guys are the little ones when they come over, they're 4 and 7. They love to bake. That's the first thing they ask is, can we bake? So what are we going to bake? Peanut butter cookies. That's their favorite. Or cupcakes. They love doing cupcakes. So they each take turns. They each get to, I measure out the ingredients and they put it in. Then they take turns stirring. They have a ball. So they could do something like this. They can brush on the butter. The oldest one can maybe sprinkle. Got to be careful when you're sprinkling. You don't want a big clumps of it, because with the butter on it, if I was just to throw a teaspoon on it, which is probably what they would do, it's hard for them to sprinkle, then I'd have a big blob of cinnamon sugar right smack in the middle or wherever it landed, because they wouldn't know to even it out. And with the butter on it, it's hard. You can spread it a little, but it's stuck down now because of the butter. So that part they might not be able to do, but they can help. They can help roll them. When they make, last time they were over, we made roll and cut cookies, and they used some cookie cutters, but they like to just take the dough and make up different shapes. We had snakes, and we had turtles, and we had balls, and it was just whatever they made, that's fine. You guys go for it. Now, I don't have enough tortillas. See, there you go. I didn't really look. I was the package in the bread box, and I thought it was a whole package, and it turned out there was only 4. So we're only going to make 4, so that's okay. That gives us 10. And there's 6 of us, so that's 1 apiece, and then a couple left over. Those are for me to hide and have for myself. Snack on my own. So, and they're not, they're sweet. It's got sugar in it, of course, but they're not crazy sweet. You're putting, it's only, in all those, it's only a few tablespoons of sugar, and then it's not like you're eating 3 tablespoons of sugar. It's all mixed in with the rest of them, with everything else. So there we go. And the last one. And my first batch is counting down. We have like about 30 seconds to go. So by the time I get this one on the pan, that batch will be done, and I can show you what's going on. And by then our bread should be risen enough that we can go ahead and do the second part of it. Roll up. look how easy these are. This took me like, I set that timer for 8 minutes. I made another batch of the melt of the butter and the cinnamon, or the sugar and cinnamon, and melted some more butter, and made 4 more in 6 minutes. So it's not that bad. Not that bad. Didn't take very long at all. And we'll put those, I think I forgot to butter this guy. And there's the timer. So let me grab those out of the oven, see how they look. They're going to go back in because you see how they look, they're just like that, but they're not crispy. They're still real soft. So we're going to stick them back in for another 3 minutes or so. And I'll put this first batch in so they can partially cook. Gotta be careful, don't touch your oven door, that's not a good thing. I know, I heard you. Alright, so now I'm going to reset the timer for 4 minutes. And I'll take out the first ones and then the second ones will cook. Alright, so let me clear my counter away because I'm going to have to take out this dough. Wash off the mess. Baking can be messy. And if you spill stuff, well, you know, big deal. You wipe it up, right? Not the end of the world. So now we're going to have our dough. Okay, see that extra 8 minutes did it. It's nicely risen. Almost to the top of the bowl, but it was less than halfway in there, so it's definitely doubled in size. So now I'm going to go back to my recipe. Now it says it's done. Now we have to roll this into a rectangle and spread it with butter and sprinkle with cinnamon sugar. Well, there you go. See, I have the cinnamon sugar left over from and the melted butter left over from my my cinnamon hypnotizer, so I don't even have to do that step. So that's pretty cool. We'll just use that. I'm going to grab my rolling pin and flour the board. These are not, I mean, they're not hard, but they're time consuming because you have to really be precise in your measurements when you do anything that's a bun like yeast related. You see how soft that is. I know, hopefully you can see that in the camera. You can see how soft it just kind of springs right back up. So now we're going to roll this into a rectangle. And you roll it up. This part's very easy. You roll it into the shape you need it to, the size. Now you can get a tape measure, which I usually do, and I measure it. Or you can just say, yeah, that looks good, and roll it up, and you know, you might get more than it called for, you might not get enough. But you want a nice big rectangle. Nice and even. You don't want it skinny on one side and real thick on the other. You want it all to be the same thickness because they will bake at different temperature times if one is thicker than the other. So let me just get my tape measure. I have this one I took out of my sewing kit, and I just use it for just things like this. So it's got to be a 16 by 21 rectangle. So it's 20 by 15. So it's not quite big enough yet. So I'm just going to give it a few more rolls. I'm so glad I have such a nice big counter because I can do this right here. I don't have to have a big special board or anything. That is looking like it's pretty good. So we're going to go and measure. There it is, 21 by exactly by 16. That come out perfectly. So this is kind of like the cinnamon hypnotizer things. You take that and you spread the dough with 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. You just brush it on. Now you want to get this everywhere. The whole crust, every part of the dough, you want melted butter on. Now, you can put raisins in this. It doesn't necessarily call for raisins, but because I have them on hand, I'm going to add them. True Cinnabon doesn't have raisins. My Cinnabons have raisins. Because, you know, cinnamon raisin buns, ooh. Alright, so there it is nicely covered with the melted butter. And then I'm going to, oh, that was a quick minute. Okay, let me grab my first batch of cinnamon things out of the, whoo, got an explosion. One opened up. Oh dear. So there's what they look like. And see, you can see the crispiness on the side. So we're gonna set those over here and let them cool a little bit. One of them, I don't know if I can fix it or not, it unrolled. I've never had that happen before, and I'm not sure if it's going to be pretty hot, so I'm not sure if I can fix it. I'm going to take a knife. I've got a bubble. I'm going to take a knife and roll. Oh yeah, there it goes. It's working. I'm going to roll her back up. I don't know why that happened, but that got a little crispy. That got really brown on the bottom. See, this is what I like them to look like. They come out. I'll have to flip those over. That nice and brown on the one side. That's what you like. I'm going to stick these guys back in and let them cook on the other side for a couple minutes. Actually, I'm going to put both of them, both trays back in. I'm going to flip these guys over because they're nice and brown on the one side, but not the other. So I'm just going to flip them real easy, real quick, without burning myself because they're really, really hot. And I'm going to stick them back in here just for about 2 minutes, just to brown them up on the other side. 2-3 minutes. So now back to our dough here. Now we've got the butter on it. So you sprinkle it with cinnamon and brown sugar. There we go. See, as much as it was a little step by step with these, you know, they're not hard. I mean, people think, oh gosh, I can never make you know, cinnamon rolls. They look so hard to make. No, they're not hard. You just have to take a little time. It's just a little effort, you know. It's just a little extra time. It's a little, you want to do it. So now I'm going to spread this out so it covers them nicely. It covers everything. You want to leave a little off the edges so when you roll them up. And this one, you don't put it right to the edge. You put it more all in the middle and right up to the edge. So I'm just going to rinse my hands off now from the sugar. And I'm going to go ahead and get my raisins out. Like I said, I'm going to add raisins. You get these. If anybody ever shops at Dollarama, they're $1 a bag. And there's 225 grams, so it's almost a pound of raisins. You go to a Bulk Barn or to a Walmart, oh forget it, they're like $4 a bag. So now I'm just gonna lightly here and there, you know, pretty much cover it. Like, so every bite you get some raisins. You don't want one bun to have nothing and the other one to have 20 raisins in it. You just want to sprinkle them so they're all over the place. If you get a clump of raisins, sometimes they stick together. Just take them off and unclump them. There we go. Here, and I'll put a few more in. Those are nice for a snack too, you know. You just open a bag of raisins and sit there. It's a good healthy snack. So there we have it. That's all you do. And now you take this after you've done it and you roll it up and you cut it into 12 rolls. So you just take it like you would like I did with the cinnamon hypnotizers. You start here and you just roll. You want it pretty even. And see, just push it and it rolls just really nicely. Just one end in the middle, and then I'm going to bring it towards you when it gets too far over, and you just keep going. Now see that the dough is shrunk back, so it's not going to be even. So there, you just pull it and keep rolling it, and you give it a good squeeze. Make it all the same size. It gets kind of skinny when it gets down to the end, so you just push it together, and it's very workable dough, so you can just go ahead and make them all the same size. And then I just take and pinch where the seam is so it stays together when you're baking. It doesn't tell you to do that in the recipe, but that's just kind of one of those things you just kind of learn by trial and error sort of thing, because I didn't do it the first time, and it opens up, and then, you know, the buns aren't held together. So I just put it together. I'm going to get those other guys out of the oven. I don't want anything to burn. And let's see, I'm running out of counter space here. I've got so much stuff on the go. I'm going to take those guys out, put them over there, and I'm going to put the last batch of my night and day cookies in there. I still had one tray left to go. I wanted to show you the other things first. So we're going to stick those in there. So now you've got this into your nice log, and it's pushed down. Let's see. And I'm going to brush it with the butter. This way it gets browned in the oven. And you can bake these in a 9 by 12 pan. You don't bake these on a cookie sheet, because this way when they do spread, they will kind of just all go together, you know, stick together. So let me get my nice big stuck. It was stuck in there. And that's you use your 9 by 12 pan. You don't have to grease it because you are greasing this. So you take a good sharp knife and you cut this into 12 rolls. So I just make slits first to make sure I want to get them all the same size. So I make the slits without going through to make sure that I've got 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, that's 9. So we're going to make them a little bit smaller because I do want 12. So there's 1, 2. And if you get 12, you get 12. If you don't, you don't. But it's better to, you know, follow the recipe. Then if you don't get 12, that means you're getting bigger muffin rolls. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. You just kind of make them about, so that works out to be, where did I put my tape measure? If you're doing it that way, and it's a 21-inch roll, there's 21 inches, so they turned out to be about 1.5 inches wide each. So that way you can get your 12. And it says, I love this part of it, it says to put them in the baking sheet cut side down. Well, the first piece, okay, there's your cut side. That's your cut side. You put that in your pan, cut side down. But after that, all the other pieces, both sides are your cut side. So, you know, that kind of doesn't make any sense for the recipe. And the one on the end is your cut. That goes down. Now you put these in, and you can see, yeah, you can see my pan. And now cut side down. Pick a side. That's cut, and that's cut. So there we go. We're going to just put it like that. And we put those, and you want them to be touching, because they're going to bake up nice together. And then afterwards we drizzle a frosting over it, icing sugar, you make it real thin, and you drizzle them over. So we got 3, 6, 9, 12, we have 14. So there we go, cut sides down. Okay, and then I'm going to take and brush them with a little bit more butter on all the sides, because I brushed them on the top when I was slicing them, but these are the sides that didn't get any butter. So I'm just going to go ahead and get the brush right down on the side and brush all around. I'm going to go in a circle. Let's see, you all see that? Yeah. And you just go around like this and get your right down in between the rolls and give them all a nice bath in butter. Now we have to let these rise until double, and then we bake them 15 minutes. So it won't take them long to double in size. I'm going to go ahead and set them back over here on my stove. And they rise until they're double, and then you bake them for 15 minutes. And then for the topping, it is butter, cream cheese, butter, cream cheese, icing sugar, vanilla, and salt. You mix that together real thin, and you just drizzle it over the tops of them. So I'll show you that when it's done. So I will put you all on pause, and I will come back in a few minutes and show you the next step. Okay, so we're back. Now my cinnamon rolls have risen, doubled in size. I put them in the oven. They have like 1 minute left on the timer, so I'm going to make the topping now to show you how that comes out. So you take 1/3 of a cup of soft butter and 3 ounces of cream cheese, which I have softening in the microwave. 3 ounces of butter equals about 1/4 of a cup. You put that in. I just softened it up a little bit so it'll be easier to incorporate with the sugars later. So, or sorry, it's 1/4 of a cup of butter. I said 1/3, but it was 1/4. So then you need 1½ cups of icing sugar. Measuring spoon. Well, I had everybody on pause. I went ahead and cleaned up my kitchen, got all my baking stuff cleaned up and put away. Now only to start over again. And there's our timer. So we need 1½ cups of icing sugar. There's 1/2 cup. There's a cup. And 1½ cups. That's good. Put that away, out of our way. And 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Where'd my vanilla? There it is. You put things away sometimes not in the same place. So we need 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Now this is going to be very watery. It's going to be like a glaze. You don't put it. Actually, I'm going to get my mixer out, I think. I'm just going to try to hand mix it, but I probably will get my beaters out because it makes it creamier that way. Make sure all the lumps are out. Yeah, just give me 1 sec. I'm going to get my mixer out. It's much easier. It comes out softer, creamier. So I'm going to go ahead and use that, and it'll be just nice. And you don't want it to be thick like you would frosting a cake. You want it to be a little thinner, like almost like a glaze. So use the noise. We're just going to go ahead and mix this up until it's nice and smooth in the bowl. That's a lot quicker than trying to hand mix it for 10 minutes. Because then you mix it to get everything incorporated and all the lumps out. You can do it with the hand mixer in 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to get this out of the way. All this stuff goes out of the way. And we're going to get our buns out of the oven. There we are. Oh, look at how nice they look. Look at how nice they look. And what you do is you take, for this frosting, you take a tablespoon. Let's see, it's very, you see how watery that is? Let's see, get the camera down there a little bit better there. See? That's what you want. And you take like a tablespoon or so and you just put it right on top and let it just ooze down all the way on that roll. It'll melt. Some of it, like you won't see a big white blob like this because you do this while they're still hot. So, and it just oozes right down. I'm going to put a little bit too much on that one. I'm going to have to stretch this, so I just overdid it a little bit. Maybe a teaspoon at a time would be good, not a tablespoon. I did use a little too much, so I'm just going to spread it because I want to have enough for all of them. Take not quite as big of a spoonful. That's what I did. I just put too much of a spoonful on the one. Because you want enough for all of them. I mean, yeah, you can make more frosting, but I mean, this is what it called for. And if you don't overdo it, you'll have enough. And there we go. That was all that took. And it was a little time consuming letting it rise in between, but basically, you know, you just go on and do something else. If you're not baking anything more, I was today, but if you're not, you know, set your timer for like an hour or whatever, or just keep coming checking it. set your timer and check it every so often and do a couple things while you're doing it, and there we go. So now I'm going to take one out and put it on a plate and show you all 3 yummy, luscious desserts. So we're done for today, and I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Tell all your friends to come by my channel and have a look, have a listen, have a look. Leave me a comment about what you think, how things turned out, if you'd like to see anything else, what you'd like me to make, sweet, savory, dessert, main dish, doesn't matter, I can do it. So I show you what we got here today. So this is what we did. We did our clone of a Cinnabon, our cinnamon hypnotizers, and our night and day cookies. There's the night and day cookie. And then because I had a little bit extra dough, so we have chocolate cookies. We have just night cookies. So that is for dessert tonight, or in snack, or whatever you want it for. So enjoy everything. I hope you copy my recipes. The list of ingredients will be in the description box below. And you can leave me a comment if you'd like me to make something special that you'd like to see done, that you don't know how to do. And then you just follow through with my videos, follow step by step as I do. And everybody have a lovely, sweet, warm summer day, and happy Canada Day everybody tomorrow. Bye now.